So the last 2 weeks, the US stock market has been dropping significantly. But in this video, I'll explain to you why I think it is a great buying opportunity. So stay tuned to find out why.
So first thing first, something that I like to share with you guys rather than the price action is one of my good friends' websites, marketmakeclear.com, alright? Through here you can see the seasonal data for S&P 500. Clearly you can see from the middle of November it's a bullish season, so that's one of the things that I use. Obviously it has a lot more stuff that on this website you can see most of the instruments, stocks and forexes, which I'm going to detail a bit more, like the seasonal behavior, also the commitment of trader. But however, commitment of traders at the moment, we don't have any data due to the government shutdown, so I'm not going to go into detail too much on this. But in terms of the seasonal data, it's bullish for S&P. One thing that I use a lot is from TradingView, that is the S&P 500 ETF, because that's represent the live cash market and one of the biggest ETF for S&P 500. Two indicators that I use the most is the accumulation distribution and the advanced decline line, which is at the bottom. This yellow line tracks the volume, okay? You can see while price is retracing, dropping, this is holding really well. And advanced decline line on the blue line represent how many advancing stocks are advancing, how many stocks are advancing or declining. So obviously it's holding very steady, so it's not really dropping too much on that sense. Now, in terms of price action, you can see Friday it finds the support on the trend line area, which I marked last week. However, is quite, is bullish momentum through this area, opening and then go higher. Now it's retracing. What I would like to see is on Monday that potentially, what I like to show you is something that I use quite a bit, is the pivot point standard. And I like to see, so let's change that to a daily time frame pivot point. So obviously this is a pivot point, is basically calculated from the day before price action to the next day. So we can see Friday, obviously in the morning it dropped, testing between S1 support 1 level, support 2 level. So I think potentially this daily pivot, which is a central area like a magnet, could drop down to 6,700 area, which I'm going to monitor. I could, depending on price action here, I could take my first buying order at around 6,700 area, stop loss just below this here, swing low, hourly swing low. Then when it break above this area would be my second order. So first one here, scaling through here. Another things that I like to look at is NASDAQ. As you can see, it's just going to clear off the pivot first. Similar things, we found support on Friday, trend line support area, accumulation distribution through here, very healthy. Advanced decline line holding okay, therefore dropping down to hourly, potentially depending either S&P or NASDAQ, find support around this higher low area. Daily pivot I'm checking tomorrow, or could be taking a trade on NASDAQ as well. Looking across, even on the Dow Jones Industrial, we are finding support at the trend line support area, healthy on accumulation distribution. So use that into your advantage, market correlation, like, make sure everything lines up in the same direction. Therefore, I like to be a buyer. Simple as that. Okay. Moving on to the currency side of things. Again, I like to show you from my good friend's website Seasonal data do suggest this is the dollar index. We can see now this, the yellow line is the current price action. November, and this one is 20 years usual behavior for the price for US dollar. It likes to go up a little bit more till end of November. Okay, so that's give me an indication on what could happen. But then we need to look at the actual price. So let's go to dollar index. Dollar index currently sitting at trendline support, and this area is actually monthly pivot as well, but I don't want to put it on because it can get quite messy, right? So I like to see it continue to break higher. I mean, potentially it depends. We may run into this 101.4 area, but you know, I like to take some profit in this swing high first, or use this trend line there. So it could be around this area would be my first target. Looking across, euro would be the one that I like to sell. So will be one to take some profit here first, and then maybe something around here. Okay, on euro, very simple. Below this Friday low, then I'll be a seller of euro. Okay, so that's the plan, but need to see other pairs like pound and all of that do similar things, break the trend line, go lower for me to consider to take a short position on euro. So ultimately I want to be a short-term buyer on the US dollar. Okay, looking at gold, I did say last week, if you follow my channel, I said potentially we are going to make a daily lower high and drop lower. You know, for Thursday shows the reversal above Friday follow through. What I like to see is quite similar to here when we back in October when we saw the sell-off. I like to see it range a little bit here and then drop. So could be here, something like that. Maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, I look to be potentially a seller of gold back down to not very much, but take some profit on the swing low, and then maybe 3,770 area would be this. Just a little correction, you know, it could be a buyer again at the end of the year. So let's see how it goes. Okay, cryptocurrency, interesting, huh? If you follow my channel, I did say it's going to be very difficult for Bitcoin to break off this long-term resistance line, which is around 120k area, and now we're rejecting. So where is it going from here? We can see when we reject here last time, okay, it can drop and then go back up here, and this period can last a good few months. Do we see this happening few months and then eventually drop? Potentially, that's what I think we could happen. So the current price action here is looking more like the 2021 April time to me. So we could be doing this, but I ultimately I don't see price break anything higher than the 120, 130k area. Okay, is there a buying opportunity for me? No, not for me anyway. I don't want to be a Bitcoin buyer. Eventually I could be shorting Bitcoin maybe, but that's in a few months time, then back down to maybe around just a 50% correction, because used to when it correct, you can see from the peak 70,000, call it, can drop down to 15. That's like, you know, 60-70% correction. However, this time round we could only see around a 50% correction, but still, you know, decent reward to risk if you want to short it through here. Buying wise, I'm not keen to invest in Bitcoin in this area for sure. Back down to here would be ideal. Well, probably about 70k could be an area that I look to be a buyer, but that, don't know, could be a year's time before I actually do this. All right, so that's all for me this week. My main plan is to be a US stock market buyer, potentially be a buyer of US dollar, gold seller, and not much to me in the crypto market. If you do have any questions, drop me a comment. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and see you guys next Monday.